Welcome to episode 1 of The Lower Shelf, where complex issues meet common sense answers. My name is Autumn Keeling, and I will introduce each new episode. Today, Dr. John Schultz and Jacob Hansen share their insights on financial stewardship. Now, let's get to the episode.
Hello, my name is John Schultz, and I serve as the pastor at First Baptist Church McClenny. Again, I want to welcome you with us to the first episode of The Lower Shelf, where complex problems meet common sense answers. Co-hosting with me is Jacob Hansen, our next-gen pastor at FBC Mac. And Jacob, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, man, I'm really excited to be on, excited for this podcast, see where it goes. But I serve here at First Baptist as a next-gen pastor, so I get the privilege of working with children, students, and families, ranging from kindergarten to 12th grade. My wife, Jade, and I, we get to partner together and do that with a great team, and just excited for our first episode.
Cool. Every other week, Jacob and I are going to be examining a variety of areas to assist you in your walk with Christ, dealing with issues that you may be confronting, such as finances, growing in your faith, parenting, marriage, relationships, maybe even issues within this other Baptist convention. We will also look at the area of bringing a guest or more in with us to help with certain issues. The bottom line out of this podcast is we want to bring the learning right down on the lower shelf so that it may meet a need for you and maybe an area you're struggling with. I'm just excited to bring this life dream that I've had to fruition, and just excited about this. So let me tell you a little bit about me. I have had the honor of serving as the pastor here at FEC Mac for, I guess, we're in our third year together. I've served as a church planter, an XP, a pastor, a children's minister. I've had the honor of serving in the U.S. Navy for 20 years. We have 2 adult children and a granddaughter named Vivian. My wife and I, Pam is her name, we're high school sweethearts, and we've been married for 49 years. You know, I really would like to take this first episode and maybe the next few episodes to talk with you about finances. Some of you listening have received your credit card bills from Christmas, and you're probably looking at each other and wondering who spent all this money, and you can't believe you spent that much. You may be living like a large number of people. We hear 70%, 80%. I really don't know if we know for sure how many it is, but a large portion of America are living paycheck to paycheck. And, you know, the reality is you may not have had good models from your parents in this area. And my parents modeled a lot of things, but this certainly wasn't an area where I saw a lot of good modeling on their part. So, Jacob, let me ask you, how about you? Did you have any good models in your life in this area?
Man, yeah, I had just a great privilege, great grace of the Lord to grow up in a Christian home. And both my parents were faithful to the Lord, faithful to the church, and so they just instilled in me and in my siblings very early on just kind of that 80-10-10 principle, living on 80%, saving 10%, tithing 10%, and even above and beyond that. And then outside of that, just faithful pastors, ministers of the gospel who, not perfect by any means in their teaching, but certainly would urge us and encourage us to be faithful that way. Another area where I got to learn a lot was just by working actually at ViStar Credit Union and in high school as a teller. And so I got to see that financial impact on people in a variety of ways. And so you could see people who were faithful in their stewardship, and it was great for them, but then you also saw the other side of that where it wasn't, and they were stressed. And so just had a variety of ways seeing what it looks like, how finances really can impact your life.
Cool. Hey, would you say that you and Jade have a working cash flow plan that you guys navigate through?
Man, when I saw this question, I'm like, hey, I've got to tell the truth. And Jade and I, we are not too strict on a plan necessarily. And so maybe that lands with some of
maybe FPU.
that lands with some of our listeners. Maybe you and I and our families are in the same boat. But I will say each time we get paid, we are diligent to make sure we set aside our tithe and our gift that we want to give to the church. But then also we set aside as much as we can to save. And so speaking of that, brother, yes, I'm excited that our church offers Financial Peace University. I know we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but we would love to be a part of that.
Cool. Yeah, it's real tough for Jacob and Jade to do it because Jacob really heads up our Wednesday night events, and we'll need to find a time to be able to do it. Let me ask you another question. How important do you feel it is to have this area in balance in your life as early as you can?
Sure. Going back to growing up, just, again, grandparents, parents teaching us saving. Sometimes early on, I would get discouraged, like maybe I'm not saving as much as somebody else, or I'm not saving as high as a percentage as somebody else. But really, and my encouragement for the folks listening would be, man, just being able to establish saving as a principle, however much you can, whether that's $5 a check, $50 a check, whatever the amount is, saving as a principle, and it builds on itself over time. And so that was one of those areas where, as early as I can remember, as soon as I started getting money for chores or whatever, just setting aside a little bit to save. Sure.
Really feel like this is an area, especially with over $1 trillion of credit card debt, so many people using mobile ways, and I really believe it's created a market of employment for some. But people having a lot of food delivered to the house, just swiping and not really knowing how much they're paying for things, and not really feeling the pain of that transaction, and not really having a cash flow plan. I think it really can impact a lot of different areas. Let me ask you, just kind of a little bit outside of that, how do you think that can impact your spiritual life if this area is not really healthy?
Sure. It can in a big way. I think anytime we think about stress, especially financial stress, I'm sure many of our listeners, I know you and I, we've looked at the data and we've looked at the research. That is one of the top causes that leads to relational strain and relational stress. And that's not only between maybe you and your spouse or you and your family, but even between you and the Lord. And it really can be a barrier to spiritual growth as you think about, even you might get to a place where you think, man, the Lord's not being fair to me, or things like that. But really, when it comes down to it's our ability to manage the funds and manage the finances that He's given to us. And so I certainly think your financial stewardship will impact your relationship with the Lord. Absolutely.
Yeah, kind of full disclosure, Pam and I went to a Dave Ramsey large event, and then I brought the financial piece back to the church that I was serving. We'd been married at that point 25 years and really didn't have a good handle on where the money we were receiving. And we were certainly not poor. We had a good amount of income. We just had no directions for that. We began offering FPU semesters twice a year at the church that I was serving then. We saw people engage in the process, getting out of debt, building an emergency fund. That beginning emergency fund, I remember looking back, and that's the first time that Pam and I, as a married couple, married 25 years, had $1,000 in an emergency fund that we knew that was tagged only for that. And what a great feeling that was. And then to have a fully funded emergency fund and saving for the future and paying off a house and all those things. We all want it. It just takes time. I am concerned about the credit card debt that so many people have, and the pace of it is growing at a trajectory that's just not sustainable. And yet, it seems like that there are people that are in debt, and yet when you offer options or try to offer options for them to dig out FPU or other plans, it is one of those things that it seems like they're kind of hesitant from being able to do that. I know we didn't have it in our notes, but let me ask you, why do you think that people avoid getting help, do you think?
Sure, man. I think you mentioned earlier one of the biggest things that I think people can let get out of hand, and I know I certainly did early on, and by no means are we masters of this, but is fast food consumption. So all that to say is I think people sometimes avoid getting help because frankly, they're just flat out embarrassed when they look at the ledger and they see, man, I spent this much on fast food, or man, I spent this much on my subscription services, or whatever the case is. So I think that's one area people may feel like a little bit of ashamed or embarrassed of that. But the other thing is too, and I don't want anybody to feel discouraged by that, but the other side is, man, people maybe want help, but they don't know where to start. And that's one of the reasons why we want you here on the Lower Shelf podcast, is so we can help you with that. But I think just giving people who genuinely want to see that area in their life get back maintained and under control, just giving them a launching pad to start that way.
Oh, I think you're right. I think a lot of times people have no clue how much debt they're really in. And when they write it all out and they gather it all together, there is that shock factor that comes in. Most everybody that I've done an FPU class with, tell them to go home that first night and have them write down every single debt that they have, every outstanding debt that they have, and then how much income they have, and they come back and their eyes are wide open because they had no clue that they were in debt like that. A lot of guys will adopt this philosophy: I make money, therefore I should have money. And man, I'm telling you, everybody else but you has a plan for your money. I'd also say this: financial health, or the lack of it, can really impact your marriage. You said before, and there's a lot of data out there that says money problems in the marriage are still very high. There was a time I heard 90%. I don't know if that's still the number or not. But marital issues and money are tied together often in a variety of places. And I'd say it doesn't only hurt your marriage, it can hurt a job. You may have a security clearance, and if you're in huge amounts of debt, they can remove that. It can impact your job. It can impact transportation, your health. It also impacts how your children view finances. I think they should be learning those principles from the parents. I think that's another area of parenting that we'll cover at some point in the future, being able to share with our kids how we handle money rather than money handling us. Jacob, how do you feel that we need to change the trend and create financial wisdom for students and younger adults?
As I saw that question, I thought exactly about, you and I are in lockstep on that our students, our children, your children, listeners, they are going to do what they see you do. So the model in the home is certainly in the forefront in terms of setting financial stewardship, financial stability. How do mom and dad, how do grandma and grandpa, how does my family handle money? That's what they're going to see. That's what I shared way earlier on the podcast. That's my experience. Was I saw how to be generous to the church. I saw how to save. I saw how to spend. All based on what I saw my mom and dad and my family model for me. And so, I really think that area of how do we change this trajectory is we reach families, parents, the models who are going to be setting that example for the next generation. And maybe you are like Pastor, as he shared earlier, that you grew up and you didn't see a good model. Well, the good news is Jesus changes lives, and you can start and you can be that good model for your family and for your kids. Another thing I think, too, is we just got to create spaces to talk about that. That's got to be something that we talk about with our students and our young adults as we teach through books of the Bible, as we teach through themes and topics in the Scriptures. As financial stewardship comes up, which it sure does throughout the pages of the Bible, we take the opportunity to address that and see what the biblical principles are, teaching us how to be godly stewards of what He's given us.
You bet. I think as well, just thinking through this, the ability of having it incorporated in a lot of teaching venues, but also being able to make it relevant and current. Most of our young adults and students operate off of a phone, and being able to provide tools that they can do a budget, that they can run their cash flow plan. If they have a bank account, being able to view that. As much as we can make it mobile and user-friendly for people to learn how to handle this, I think the better off it'll be. And then the outcomes of why it's so important. I know this, that we're not going to answer or deal with all the facets of this area on one podcast. So we're going to take the next 3 podcasts and propose a plan, and then maybe how to use that plan in your life. If you can enroll in Financial Peace University, I believe it could help. You can go to daveramsey.com and look for a class in your area. You just put in your zip code. You can enroll virtually. I have found, though, over the years that in leading these classes, and I've led a bunch of them, that most people will go farther faster if they're in an in-person class, but you may not be able to. You may be, your schedule won't let you. Don't let that stop you from being able to enroll in an FPU class. You can do it virtually. You can do it a variety of ways to be able to do it. Listen, FPU isn't the only animal out there. I just say to you, I'm a satisfied customer, and we have a number of people that we have led through this and seen it work in their lives, and you could be the next one. Well, thank you for joining us today, and I hope you'll join us again for The Lower Shelf.
We hope that today's episode has encouraged you in your walk with Christ. The Lower Shelf is a ministry of First Baptist Church of McClenny. To learn more about First Baptist Church of McClenny, visit fbcmac.com, and you can also follow our ministry on Facebook and Instagram. Be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss an episode. Thanks for spending time with us on The Lower Shelf.